Welcome to the Crime Redefined podcast, produced by Zero Cliff Media. Coming to you from the US Bank Tower, high above downtown Los Angeles. In our podcast, we drill deep into forensics and criminal investigation from the viewpoint of the defense, as well as explore the intersection of the media and the justice system.
I'm Dion Mitchell here with my socially distanced co-host, Mehul Anjaria. On this episode of Crime Redefined, we have a special treat for you. We're talking to MMA legend and Hollywood action film star Cung Lee about his new TV project, Flight or Fight, that just might save your life.
Yeah, as a big MMA fan, I'm really looking forward to today's interview. Cung Lee is a former Strikeforce middleweight champion who famously defeated Frank Shamrock for that belt. Cung has also fought in the UFC, and he's been in the ring with the likes of Michael Bisping, Wanderlei Silva, and Rich Franklin.
Now, if you're not as familiar with MMA as Mehul is, you may know Cung from this impressive list of movies he's been in. To name a few: Fighting with Channing Tatum, Pandorum with Dennis Quaid, Dragon Eyes with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and Puncture Wounds with Dolph Lundgren.
Well, I think we've established, Dion, that Cung is a tough guy. And so now that we know his resume, it's pretty obvious that Cung's got the right stuff to bring us a TV show about survival. And let's face it, with all the craziness in the world right now, we really all could, benefit from paying more attention to some basics like situational awareness, self-defense, and first aid. Like Cung says, you are your first responder.
That's right. If not you, who?
Nobody.
Cung has a sizzle reel out for his new and improved version of Flight or Fight, and the timing couldn't be better in this age of COVID, civil unrest, and increasing violent crime.
Oh, don't forget the asteroid strike that's coming as well.
Why not? Let's just get it all in 2020 so we get out of it, right? Sit back and relax and enjoy the hour-long chat we're privileged to have with Cung Lee on a number of topics.
Cung, it's a great honor to have you on Crime Redefined today.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this interview. See what you guys got for me.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching you fight in Strikeforce and UFC over the years, and we really do appreciate your time today.
We'll make this fun. So, Cung, let's just jump into it. Let's just set the stage. And first of all, tell our listeners, what is flight or fight response, and what happens to the human body when it occurs?
Well, fight or flight, basically you're in a situation that could be life or death, or if you're in a, facing someone that is a threat, your body responds in certain things like your adrenaline kicks in, and it all comes down to how you react to it, and there's a moment when you might have to fight, or you decide you take flight. So my show, I've done this show, I started this show about 2 years ago, and I got an investor to fund one episode. I actually ended up shooting 2 episodes out of the funding, but one of my co-hosts, who I paid for both shows, ended up thinking that he was bigger than the project itself, and said that if I was going to use his likeness, then I would have to renegotiate with him for back-end ownership. So I decided to scrap the project and, put it in God's hand. And when it was the right time to reboot it again.
Those things happen, there's always a giant ego out there somewhere under a rock.
Well, in a way it's my fault because, when we were doing this show, he was only going to come on for one episode. And then, we did a gentleman's handshake, and now I learned
lesson learned, right?
I learned the hard way. So, I easily could have won in court, but he's a veteran. He served our country, and whether he decides to be this way, and I think a part of it is could be his wife too. I don't know. Whatever the case is, I just moved on. I moved on, and now I got an amazing team. The concept's way better. And, so I'm totally excited. We've shot the sizzle. We re-edited him completely out of it. And we're completely redoing the show. So I told I told the person who invested in my show, that I apologize, but I don't want to give him any credit out there. He doesn't deserve it. And, sure, he served our country, but, I'm going to move on to, someone who's more, of a man of faith. And I know that I put in God's hands, with God before me, nothing can stand against me. So here we go again, right in the pandemic, right when everyone needs it. And it's time. So.
Yeah, it's great timing, Kung. And I just saw it online last week. And, the reboot is really kick-ass. It looks really intriguing. So tell us about where you're at now. Who are your current cast members? And what's really the goal of this show?
Well, Chad, he's, I don't want to give everything away, but Chad, he's, 10-year veteran, also was an instructor for the, SEAL teams and, anti-terrorism instructor, and did a 13-month tour as a, diplomatic protection. And then, I got also someone who's going to talk about the PTSD and the effects that what a person will feel before the incident and how they can recover and take steps to recover after an incident. And I think it's like the three elements of, you got your tactical guy, you got your martial artist, world. I've been on fighting on different platforms, different styles, throughout my whole career. I know what works in self-defense. I know what works in combat, and I know what doesn't work either, So, and then we have our, family therapist that can work with, like a man or a woman or even a child, because we're dealing in today's world, look what's going on. Kids are going missing. There's pedophilia going on. There's, obviously right now, the COVID is, outshining what's happening to our kids. So, how do we protect our kids? How do we protect ourselves? And when do we fight? When do we run? And I believe that this show will kick ass. Think of ridiculousness, where in the show it tells you what not to do, and it shows funny stuff. And in our show, we show you the realness of the world we live in and what you could do in these incidents with your skill level.
Well, to that point, Kung, I am addicted to your Flight or Fight official TV IG account. And absolutely, one of the most disturbing things on there are the human trafficking scenes. And I understand that Instagram's actually shut your site down before. Why is that?
I have no idea. We actually pull the content off of, other sites. And then, we make sure all of our content, is, we when we post something, it's facts. There's facts behind it. There's news covering it. So I don't know, as you hear, certain people are controlling the media, and when they want something to be out, they'll let it out. When they want, when they don't want something, they'll red flag you or they'll shut you down. We've been shut down, different times, but with all the overwhelming support, I think, and God's will, we're always back on. So we're just very careful on what we're posting now. We even have a backup account with 10,000 followers, and I feel blessed to, be the guy behind this, the mastermind and putting it all together. And I feel really blessed with the great team now. Before I felt like, it's like a two-man show and we were going to bring in victims, but now it's about bringing in different specialists, because, we can't just focus on one person's, something that happened to one person, but we got to focus on what everyone in the world could do if this happened. And since there's footage out there, we will take the footage, we will break it down, and then we'll give you all the different options from, the hand-to-hand combative, tactical side, and then there's the tactical element of, the gun dynamics and military mindset. And then when we bring in our, special guests, we actually even have someone who was an expert home invader and looks for all the weak signs and what they would go after, someone who would be an easy victim, or if they want to, turn up their, adrenaline rush, then they go after someone who's tougher. So we break down. There's 3 different kind of predators out there. There's a predator that goes after the weak, and only the weak they will go after. And then there's the spontaneous where, an opportunist, and then, the moment's right for them and they don't care who it is. And then they become the predator and they go after the victim. And then they're the last one, I believe, is the most scariest one. Those are the predators that look for a trophy. They look for something hard. They look for, someone to, hurt or rape or kill or, steal from. And those are the ones, you put on top of the, on the list of the, the predators that are, they hunt for the trophy. They hunt for the thrill, when they don't have to.
Yeah, that's a great segue for my next question. In your sizzle reel and on Instagram, you mentioned a number of products that can help people with preparedness and self-defense, such as pepper spray. First of all, for our listeners, is pepper spray legal?
Yes. Well, in most states, it's legal, right? I don't know in other countries, but now as you're living in a pandemic and if you can't carry a gun or haven't taken your CCW or don't like firearms, what are you going to do if you're a 120-pound female and, you're about to be attacked? Like what I say is, don't, don't be that victim. At least give yourself a fighting chance. Not only should you have that pepper spray, I suggest get the one that looks out like a fire extinguisher. You can punch with that, big ass, pepper spray, and you can spray, and it has distance. You can walk around with it, pull it out of your purse if you feel threatened, and then you don't even have to give warning. As soon as someone steps into your area of comfort area, spray them. And if you have that mindset and you are in control of your emotion, then you can say, you're making me feel uncomfortable. I have pepper spray. I will use it. And if they continue, then spray them, get off the X and keep spraying them and run.
Is there a particular brand that you liked? And if so, where can you purchase it at?
Well, Evoke Tactical, they carry Saber. It's a brand called Saber, right? But I've come up, I'm doing some, product development with some other companies. It's a military grade pepper spray. Like for me, as you see, the Asian community's been, affected really bad by like everything. I'm not saying that, no one else is being affected. I'm saying we have been affected, mostly our elders, because, we are easier victims because our elders, are, self-sufficient. They'll walk to the store by themselves. They'll go grocery shopping. They'll go to the bank, and
they're just easy targets.
They're just easy target because they're rolling around with their purse. And as you see, there's 80% of the things that I watch is because, these elderly, grandmas or granddads that are out and about getting caught in the crossfires,
Well, let's talk about that. So let's say we do some advice for the, elderly community, for everybody. What are some of the products that people should own in a case of emergency like this, what we're going through with the pandemic?
Well, first of all, like before I even stress product, right, I stress situational awareness, right? I stress about, hey, if you're going to go out and about right now in this time and age, let's wait till someone gets home so you can go and, travel in twos, at least there's two people. And if someone's standing in front of you, or you're getting, your purse, or, you're getting mugged, you've done everything else wrong already, because you didn't check your situational awareness. You didn't check your surroundings, and you didn't check for all the people that are in that area, and, or in the cars, or being suspicious. So that's one layer that you have to go through. And two, if they're in front of you and they are about to, attempt something to rob you, or to, a hate crime, you got pepper spray. And if the pepper spray, they somehow got through the pepper spray, their eyes, they are blinded. Or if you didn't douse them right, make sure you have some kind of blade. Of course, if you don't know how to use it, then that blade could, end up in their hands. So there's a lot of different elements. But for me, if I'm going out, and if it's my time, I prefer to go out fighting rather than going out on my knees.
Well said. Cung, take us back to your youth. And if you would, paint a picture for us what it was like to be a young Vietnamese kid growing up in San Jose, and how that turned you into the warrior that you are today.
When I first came to America, I was, first we stopped in three different refugee camps. First in the Philippines, then after that in Guam, then in down in the Monterey area. Then we got a sponsor. Someone took us in Monterey, and then from there, after almost a year, we moved to San Jose, and I'm that Asian, family, like fresh off the boat, where you're loaded in a small house, 4-bedroom house with 13, people, where the first 2 rooms is dedicated to my grandparents, who got the house, and then my great grandma had her own room, and then the aunts got one room, and the uncles got the others. And I was with the aunts because my mom, I was the first the first kid, in the batch. So it was crazy. It was living with a bunch of ants in one room was rough.
I'll bet.
So just growing up and going through life, being bullied, and a lot of kids, whether they're American or African or Mexican, they didn't understand why their uncle or their dads died in Vietnam. So they definitely had a lot of animosity and hate and resentment, to the Bo people, to the Vietnamese people who came in trying to start over. And we lost our country, and we're starting over. So, and it was tough, but I believe through toughness and through the struggles that I endured, it helped me become the person that I am, along with having faith in God and my mom teaching me right. So I wasn't raised by my dad. My dad was, stuck in Vietnam, and he came over when I was 8, but, they were divorced by the time I was freshman. So it obviously didn't work out. And, being from Vietnam as a refugee and going through what I've endured, I believe this is like the American dream, when there's struggle and there's success. And, now we're in a time of pandemic. You're living in your own movie.
Cung, tell us a little bit about your entree into martial arts and the first time that you were able to shut one of these bullies down physically, and what that felt like.
When I first started martial arts was when my mom says, that's enough. I came home with a bloody nose and a black eye, and she said, I'm going to take you to a dojo, and we're going to find you a teacher to teach you how to defend yourself. But, going in, she still had to work 2 or 3 jobs. She wasn't getting me in consistently, so, and when she told me, at first she told me, don't fight. It's not good. The one thing that you do when you fight is one thing that you gain is one more enemy. And so I didn't fight. I just, got bullied and picked on and beat up. And then, like, my teacher told me, you know, sometimes you have to defend yourself. So, but I didn't really go through like consistency of classes, but so I continue to get bullied. Just going through a couple weeks of martial arts doesn't mean that you can fight, right? So I'll still get my butt whooped.
Right,
and
right.
Then, not until I started joining wrestling and then got into it, after seventh grade, I felt like I can carry my own. Even in seventh grade, my first year into wrestling, I went to the nationals. I didn't place, but I went. Come eighth grade, before I became a freshman, I remember the last day of school, some freshmen came in, and just because I wasn't, I did something wrong to one of his cousins or whatever. I don't know whether, I don't remember exactly, but I didn't start it. And, he came in and he tried to, tried to pick a fight. And, next thing I know, I picked him up and double leg slammed him down, and the fight was over. knocked the air out of him, and that was it. And pretty much the whole school saw that. And it was like the last day of school. So from there, I went into as a freshman in high school. Everything was cool. I just competed for try to compete for the varsity spot, which I didn't get. But, I had so much great experience, and the wrestling journey really began as a freshman. Even as eighth grade, I actually placed at nationals at 6. But, I wasn't like year round yet. I was still like 6 months, and then take a couple months off, and then back into wrestling. But as a freshman, I was year-round wrestling all the time.
It really sounded like it got a hold of you, and it's amazing how, with that kind of motivation, what's possible. I want to ask you about your sizzle reel, where you show a lot of advanced tactical weapons, techniques, and martial arts moves. But what are some of the basic tips that we should all know about survival?
The basic tips is stick to the basics. There's nothing fancy about anything, and don't go to a self-defense class for a weekend and believe that now you can defend yourself. This is pretty much every day, if not 5 days a week, whether you're in the shower or whether you're at home taking a break from your work, or for the kids out there, if you're taking a work from in between your home studies and you're shadow boxing and you're doing your basic punches, your basic, headbutts, your basic angles, you're working your 50% to your 0%, meaning if someone stands in front of you, you don't want to be in front of them. That's being at their 100%. You will take on the 100% of their power. If you take off the 50, you still got your 100, but they're only at their 50%. So they're only really, got one good side to attack you from before you guys square up again. So that's, those are the basics that I teach. And, your basic jab, your cross, your hook, your knees, your low kicks, your stumps, and then putting a blade in your hand. If whoever's done boxing, whoever's done kickboxing, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. You put a knife in a reverse grip position, and you're throwing combos with it. You can punch with the fist, then slice after, or you can hit with the blade only. And having a blade or two in your hands, I believe that's the game changer. You're not doing any stabbing. You're not trying to be a knife fighter. You're not going through your 9 or 10 or 11 different slashes that you learn in a knife class, whether it's a saber knife position or whether it's a reverse grip. You are doing what you normally do in a kickboxing class. You're throwing combinations at someone's face, and you got a blade in your hand. And if you're fighting, you've done everything wrong. About again, I always stress that to the people I teach. If you're fighting or you're confronted with someone, everything you've done with situational awareness and knowing your surroundings, you failed.
So you're saying that you should, if your head's up and you're aware of your environment and in tune with what's going on, and you can, kind of see maybe a situation potentially coming up on you, to remove yourself from that. So you've lost the battle already if you have found yourself kind of, in that situation where you've got to fight is kind of what you're saying.
Correct. Head on a swivel, and if you feel like you're being followed, here are the three things you need to know: the time that you're being followed, the distance that you're being followed, and you make that change of direction, and that guy's still on your tail, you're being followed. Get to a busy, crowded area, and basically, work your elements, work your mirrors. That when you walk in, and that if you're in this place, there's a lot of people and there's cameras, and that's your safer bet, and that's when you can pull out your cell phone. And if you don't have one, you can ask someone in there saying that you're being followed and you need to borrow their phone, and you can hand them something so they don't think that you're going to run off with their phone, and then you make your call and you stay right there until someone gets there, and then you can report it. But while during the distance, you should try to get the plates. You should try to get the make of the car, and if you're able to, see the person in there, then you should try to get a facial description, right away. Make those notes.
Those are all great advice and tips, and I hope people will listen to this several times so it sinks in. It's great, and it actually sets up another great segue. So if you don't mind, I'd like to throw just a really simple scenario. So how would you apply flight or fight technique to the average person? And here's the scenario. Let's say someone using Kenosha or Seattle or Portland or any of these hotspots right now, who has inadvertently found themselves the wrong place, the wrong time. So let's say, for example, a car is too easy because that happens. But let's say you're just walking down a city street. You don't know of anything that's going on. You turn the corner, and all of a sudden you're in it, and then they've turned on you. Do you have any suggestions there? Any tips you can give us?
Well, if you're walking and then you turn the corner and you're not seeing everything that's going on before it happens, you can't just turn a corner and all of a sudden you're right in the midst of battle, right? The battle has people running, have people scared. So if you're not looking ahead and you're not seeing one or two people running or, yelling and, gunshots, then again, you've done everything wrong. And if you happen to turn that corner and you see everything going on, what's the best thing to do is turn right around and turn on those rockets and sprint out of there,
No, that's great, and you're actually you kind of did a soft call out to me, because you're right. If your head's not on your phone and you're walking down, you should be able to hear, or you say see people or walk going the other direction or commotion going that direction. So what you're saying is, if your head is up and your eyes are forward and you're not buried in your phone, that scenario should never happen. You should have your head on a swivel, your ears open, and you should be seeing things coming your way. So there is not really a scenario where you turn a corner and you should be surprised. Am I understanding you correctly?
Correct. Again, there's a lot of things, 99.9% of the time, if you have your head on a swivel and you're paying attention to what's going on, you can avoid the whole situation. Don't even go there.
Right.
Drive all the way around, take a scenic route, whatever it takes.
Right.
And instead of, if you walk into it, then, unless you're a sheepdog, because sheepdogs, they tend to run towards gunfire and, try to see what they can do. And, there's always the smart ones and the wise one, right? Sometimes, it's better to be smart and learn from the wise one and don't make the mistake that wise person makes, so you have to, assess the situation, analyze it, kind of figure out, what the risk is. And if anyone's life is in danger, because I'm that person, I won't turn a blind eye if I can help or save someone. But at the same time, whether it's a quick phone call to 911 or it's calling, the police. And of course, you are your first responder. So don't put yourself in that situation where you have to respond to yourself. Right. So if you're responding to someone else because they're in a situation or they're bleeding out, then you are the second responder because they don't know what to do. You're always going to be, the police will always be the second responder or whoever comes there, and sees you for the first time. So you need to know what you're doing. You need to tourniquet yourself, unless you're knocked, excuse my Vietnamese, unless you're knocked the fuck out and someone
Right.
sees that, you see, check the pulse, see if the person's alive or breathing. And then, and if you have CPR, get to work. If not, call 911.
Well, Kung, obviously, as a martial artist, you experience flight or fight daily. But I wanted to ask you about a few situations that you've been in that I've heard you speak about previously. So, first of all, in the Michael Bisping UFC fight, when you had your orbital broken in the middle of the fight, but you decided to go on, how did you dig deep and find the strength to do that? And how did that feel? And what was going through your head?
When Michael hit me with that jab, that didn't really move my head, and the feeling that I felt was I had to throw up and take a shit at the same time.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of like, yeah. So it wasn't the orbital bone; it was the bone that held up your eyeball. So I was bleeding inside of my face, and it was just the most awkward, painful situation that I was ever in, because at one point you can actually just stop and say, oh shit, something happened to my eye, but here you're like, you got some top level fighter trying to take your head off, and he sees that you're squinting, and because he damaged your eye, so he's going to go for the kill. I think at the time right there, for me, I'm in a fight. It's you can call it blood sport or you call it whatever you want. It's as real as it's going to get. That's the saying that UFC used to use. And, I just didn't think of my life or, my well-being, because I was in my fight or flight. I couldn't get out, and I'm not that guy who's going to quit. So I'm going to go until they carry me out on the stretchers or the fight's over. And, when you're in that situation, you kind of know what kind of person you are. What will you do if it really came down to a life or death situation? Maybe that was a life or death situation. So I was in it. So that was my experience, and I know what I would do. So I wouldn't bail out on any of my family or my friends if we're in that situation. So, after that, I realized, I could have stopped the fight sooner, but, being hard-headed and wanting to finish the fight, or get carried out, or the referee stops it, then, that's the decision that I took. And, I took the gamble, and, I what I learned from it is I won't quit. You're going to have to kill me.
Yeah, you've never tapped out, have you, Kung?
No.
Wow, that's incredible. And I also heard you recently mention that you were able to successfully diffuse a potential road rage incident with your family in the car. Could you kind of describe that a little bit and talk about the mindset you used to achieve such a favorable outcome in that tough situation?
Yeah, I was driving. These guys came in, and they took an illegal turn, and I thank God I saw that, so I kind of swerved out and I swerved back in, but I didn't roll down my window and like flip them off or anything. I kept my cool, and I was more thankful like that nothing happened to me, and like in my car. So they were in a Beamer, but right away I saw like they swerved out too because they almost hit me, and it's my right away. So basically, right away I saw them. I saw three guys in the car, and they were like, pressing hard to come to my to my driver's side in their car, and I was driving, so I kind of moved over and kind of cut them off so they couldn't drive by me, because I didn't know what was going on, right? So so from that situation, they literally like pulled right beside me because I came to a stoplight, and they were in a turning lane now, and they just started saying, "Hey, go back to China, go back to
Wow,
group nip." I mean, started going off, and I in nowadays and age, you know, I might be an MMA fighter, but I'm not bullet, you know, but I was prepared. My son was in the car. My wife was in the car. So, but you know, I was ready to take action. But at the same time, I was looking on the right and I was looking on the left, even though it's a red light. Was I able to, you know, speed past that red light without, you know, getting hit by another car? I checked my situational awareness and I saw, you know, these guys are just running their mouths, and you know, I didn't see a threat. So, you know, I just kind of nodded and then kind of, you know, just defused it by, you know, kill them with
that's great
kindness.
advice, because I don't think that there's a driver in Southern California or Northern California that has not experienced that. I think every single driver on the road has run into that situation. So that's some great advice. So hopefully everybody's paying attention and we'll follow your advice. So let's talk about your film career. On top of everything else we've discussed, you have an impressive film career as well. I understand that on your first film in 2007 in Toronto, you were thrown into the deep end and were acting with some big names like David Carradine. So full disclosure, I grew up on Kung Fu. I'm a huge David Carradine fan, but I'd love to know what that was like.
When I first came on, they said I was actually coaching the U.S. national team, the event was in Hanoi, Vietnam, and I was the head coach, and I had 6 people in the semifinals, and two just moved on to the finals, and then I got a call, and it was my mom. She's like, "Hey, you got to call this Russian producer back. He wants to put you in a movie." And my mom, can you call me like later on? I'm right in the middle of coaching, and then she's all, "No, you have to call this guy right now." And I was like, "Mom, it's 2:00 in the morning your time. What are you trying to, get some sleep, Mom?" And then so I said, "I promise I'll call him." So I did call him, and he's all, "I need you over here right now." I said, "Sorry, I got 4 going for the bronze medal, 2 in the finals. I cannot leave." And then he's all, "Can you leave tomorrow?" I said, "Nope, that's award ceremonies. I want to be there for my fighters that, because they're getting their medals." And then he goes, "What about the day after?" I said, "I can travel the day after." So we made the agreement. I flew out there, and then as soon as I got on set, I was like, no breaks. They put on makeup, and I did my first scene. And I thought I was just signing a $20,000 contract to be in the main fight. But when I got there, and then I shot my first scene in the weight room, and then the producer says, "Hey, everyone, come together. I want to introduce you our new star." I was like, "Holy shit! What do you mean new star? What do you like?" So they said that I'm gonna take lead in the whole movie, and then that's and then the lady who had the call sheet and then the scripts, like the dialogue for tomorrow, she's all, "Here you go. Here's my first scene was with David Carradine." And so I was like, "Oh, thank goodness that I've been taking acting lessons." And from that day I got like acting lessons from David Carradine. I got it from Kara Tagawa. I mean, it was
pretty
great.
impressive.
So,
Not many people can say that, right?
Yeah. Well, I think David Carradine, is like the next day when I showed up on set, he's all, "Hey, you're taking over Mark DeCosco's spot, and so I don't know how good your acting skills are, but make sure just go with the flow." And I'm all, let's do a read right now." He's all, "I don't do that. Go ahead." So I did the dialogue. He's all, "You're so stiff, relax, right?" I'm all, "Well, I've been watching you, so I'm excited." He's all, "Well, relax." And he kind of gave me his flask, and I'm all, "I don't drink, And then he's all, "Okay, suit yourself." And then he's all, "Look, I don't want you to make me look bad, so I'm going to give you these tips." He's all, "Have you did a job interview? Have you done this?" And I answered yes to everything. He's all, "Okay, you have a great memory bank. Now you're here looking for a job, and convince me why I should give you this job, okay?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he's all, "Don't go off that dialogue. You're too stiff. I don't want you to read from it and try to remember the lines. Just go in here. We can do it like an interview." I said, "Oh, okay, cool." that's kind of like my first lesson from David Carradine.
I want to go back to your road rage story because we had a little bit of a drop in the connection, and I don't know that we got to your punchline. Can you kind of pick it up with what exactly you said to the guys in the car and how they responded?
So when I pulled up to the stop sign, because I actually cut these guys off so they wouldn't pull beside me, but there was a turning lane. I knew that they're going to come right up on me, and my windows was already down. Soon as they pulled up, they were like swearing, cussing, saying, "Go back to China," Chinese virus, the whole 9 yards. And I just said, okay. I just nodded and I just put my hand, like I waved to them, and they're like, "What? You want some of this?" And I said, "No, I don't. I don't want no trouble." And then it was like everything that came out of their mouth was "fuck you," "fucking gook," "fucking nip,"
Man.
whatever it is. And I just kind of just nodded, and I glanced to the right, I glanced to the left, and I made sure that the road was clear in case I had to make a quick exit. I kind of like looked at looked at these guys, and I couldn't judge if they were like just all talk or anything, but I saw that they weren't in the best shape and they weren't that fit. So I figure it wouldn't take much to if they got out of the car, I just have to swing my door around and make sure my kids and everything are safe, or speed up. So I just looked at my options, looked at my situational awareness, kind of looked at the distance from their car to my car, how fast, as soon as they opened their door, I had to be ready to either open my door or take off, drive through the red light. So I already had it all, like, okay, plan 1, plan 2, plan 3. And it's just how quick you put it all together to maneuver and take action. So, it's just a lot of name calling. And then, and I just tell them, "I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm Asian, yes, but I'm not Chinese, and it's not the Chinese virus. It's called COVID-19. So and then they're like, "Oh, you being a fucking smart mouth?" "Oh, not at all. I'm just trying to let you know what it is. It's not called the Chinese virus. It's COVID-19." So like that's basically how like giving them that. But I never like raise my voice. By me keeping the tone, I would talk like right now. Kind of defuse the whole situation. Because if I would raise my voice, then ego checks in, right? So I know to check my ego at the door. I know what I can do to these guys. If I drop one of them on their heads and then kick the other guy in the face, then I'm paying for a dental bill and a hospital bill, because I think the guy in the back of the car, he was probably young, and my son would have came out and beat his ass, so I think it was me from that day on. I decided to get this insurance where if I pulled a gun out and I had to use a gun, or if I had to take someone out, or my dog took someone out, or my son took someone out, because of self-defense, we're protected. I got a $2 million policy, and it's I think it's probably one of my best investment, $50-something each month that I can spend my money on.
Hey, Kung, didn't you also tell those guys in the car something like, "Hey, if you get road rage, you're going to get a heart attack, and it's not good for your health"?
I actually did. Thanks for bringing that up. I actually said, "Hey, you guys are really upset right now. Road rage, it's actually not healthy for you." And they're like they were like,
Great.
They were confused, right? I said, that can give you high blood pressure, that can give you a heart attack, and they're just like tripping out. And then as soon as the light turned green for them, as they're turning away, I can still hear them, "Fuck you." It's just like, and actually my son says, "Hey, Dad, what would you have done?" I said, "What I just did, nothing, right? There's no, you didn't have to see me come out and beat someone or them pull out a gun, and now we're all dodging bullets, So, God is good, right? This is what should have happened, and God will help those who help themselves, right? So we were able to avoid a conflict, able to avoid any injuries happening to us, especially any injuries happening to them, because I'm a professional fighter. I still do it. I still train on a regular basis. You train, and some guys could have really got hurt. We would end up with the hospital bill. And
well, and doesn't it seem like the biggest assholes are usually the guys who are not in good shape whatsoever?
Yeah, I think I think these are the guys that prey on like the victim. So when they saw me, I was just in my car, so they didn't see like my whole body, right? So,
right.
But like just me carrying myself, like when I told them I don't want no trouble and stuff like that, I wasn't nervous at all. I was calm. I was collective, and I think I saw the driver. He was kind of like, he assessed the kind of like you looking at your opponent, checking them out, seeing where where the weak spots are, right? And I saw the drivers, like he was definitely scoping the whole situation out, so in a way maybe these guys are, they like to find trouble, and they look for the weak, the weak victim, because I did nothing wrong. I just, like when I glanced over to the right, they almost hit me, so I just swerved out and I swerved back in. Next thing I know, they're like trying to pull right beside me, so I just cut them off, trying to pull up to me. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they can pull out a gun. So I just played it safe, and I did that. If they would have pulled to my passenger side, I would have took that left. So.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back real quick. I wanted to ask you something about your film career. Can you take us through some of the struggles you've had with, of course, being asked to portray Asian stereotypes like a triad member in movies, and where you think the industry is today in that regard?
Well, I think the industry for me, I'm a physical Asian. I can speak English, so I can act. So I think I was getting a lot of those roles as the villain, and I actually got 2 roles as the hero in Dragon Eyes and in Puncture Wounds, which should have been called A Certain Justice, but they decided to change the name, and for whatever reason it is. But and then like in Pandorum, it was like you didn't know if I was a good guy or a bad guy, but in the end I saved the whole mankind. During the end scene. So I felt like 2 years ago I got the best. I also got the most vote as the best villain. So I didn't want to continue to be that villain guy, So I just figured what I need to do. So I just started learning how to write my own scripts and look for my own funding, and figure it out. Unless it's a really good part, I'll take it. If not, then I won't. I just figure I just didn't want to play the bad guy and the gangster anymore. And it's I'd rather do something that's worthwhile. With where the audience can really enjoy and get a good message out of it. If I'm going to produce and get financing for my own film, so and that's what I decided. So it's been 2 years since I got got on the set, because I'm turning parts down because I don't want to be the villain.
Yeah, I thought that was a really positive take, that you're controlling your own destiny and developing your own content. I was reading some other stuff about, you had comments about that, the portrayal of Asians in film and TV, and I just thought your take on it was really positive, and there was a lot to take away from that for other Asian actors. I thought it was really great advice.
Yeah, I'm glad you saw that. I think a lot of people, they have their own mixed views on it, and now that you saw, Crazy Rich Asians, where the movie did great in the box office, and there was a huge interest from the Asian
just
side.
Takes that one, right?
Just takes that one, and I think now, I'm writing scripts, that will, kind of, what's the right word? Kind of marinate with the pop culture of today, what people are into, kind of talk about like end day stuff, give a good message. I got this great assassin script that I put together, and it's kind of like an Asian John Wick meets 28 Days Later, and it's basically like talks about the dead will rise, and the choices that this assassin makes is like he's all he knows is to kill people, and the reason why he was trained to do this is because he thought that whoever he's killing was the ones that killed his family. So
sold. Love the plotline already.
Yes.
yeah.
We're on board.
Long story short, his sister, who also works on the same team with him, gets killed and leaves her son behind. So my character has a choice to continue to do what he does or quit and take him and get off the grid and train him in the mountains and train him how to survive. And basically during this whole time, we saw what drugs do. It turns people into these crazy 28 days later, creatures or humans that, go crazy. And then we eliminated that. We, got the formula back off this guy who betrayed the guy who was raising us. And then my sister finds out that, the guy who was raising us was the guy who killed our real parents. And so, now all barrels are pointed at us, and, it's that choice of an anti-hero who was the villain in the movie, who's killing people. He makes a choice whether he gets saved and saved from, his sins or not, so is he going to continue to sin because he knows that he's kind of like doomed, or is he going to do the right thing and, take care of his nephew and do the right thing? And so that's what his choice is to do. And then there's all kinds of twists and turns with,
Well, I'm gonna cut you off because I don't want to have you give away too much.
No, don't worry. There's a lot more to it. That's just the surface of it, So yeah,
that's great. I'm in. Hey, I want to ask you real quick about your website, and that I noticed that you're offering online fight and fitness training in this era of COVID production. First of all, it's a great idea, and I wanted to know how that works and how it's been going.
I got really busy, so I pulled it off. But I started putting a whole bunch of stuff on my YouTube page, and now I'm going to do it on my Facebook. I'm just going to give away basic self-defense and then basic tips on fight or flight situations for people to, kind of understand. If the people who are like say that they don't have time to do it, well, maybe one lesson might give them like a spark their interest to learn more because it's free online. So it's something that I can give back and maybe save someone down the line, and and hopefully people realize how serious this these times are right now.
Right. I want to ask you, do you currently, obviously I think everybody's kind of shut down, but do you currently have a physical training center? And if you do, where is that? Like if once we get past this pandemic here, you'll take people on and train them in person? Well,
everything's closed right now, but I do have a key to the gym that I merge with, Smash Gyms, San Jose. But, there's a lot of people that, invite me to their gym. I can train there anytime I want. But, I train at Smash Gyms, or I train at Bay Area Tactical. And then, I'm doing some privates here and there with more firearms training, because I did get my my NRA cert to train people in firearms. So
That's fantastic.
I'm helping out Bay Area Tactical with that, and they were overwhelmed with so much business. So I figure I learned more when I taught in martial arts than when I then I turn around and I'm able to apply it better, right? But now that I'm teaching firearms, I'm learning so much about gun safety, how to manipulate the gun, and just by teaching it, it's helped me become a better better at that, the gun fu art of it,
Well, Cung, for my last question, I want to shift gears a little bit. In my line of work, which is forensic science, specifically DNA analysis, there's a lot of problems in the industry with shoddy scientific practices and techniques. And these are in cases where there's high stakes. People could be facing the death penalty, they could have life in jail. And what I thought was a good parallel was your experience with the HGH blood test. So if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about how you were kind of screwed over and what the problems were with that testing?
Yes, I can totally tell you about that. So basically, before that even happened, right? I was 2 weeks out from the Michael Bisping fight, and I was gonna spend my last 2 weeks in in Vietnam to kind of acclimate to the time change, and then and also Saigon Sports Clubs always sponsored me, so they had me come out and do all my media and my press at their 80,000 square foot gym. And the lawyer from UFC called me and says, "Hey, did we need you to sign another 18-month contract, 6-fight deal." And I looked it over, but my lawyer didn't get a chance to look it over, and he was on vacation, so I was gonna risk signing it. So I told him my lawyer's out, and I'll sign it. I'll have them look at it before I sign it. And they wanted me to sign it that day because I was leaving the next day to Vietnam, and I didn't sign it. And during the fight, as you know, with any anabolic or drug test, when you do it, you have to be fasted. Your resting heart rate's got to be, when you wake up, you can't be exercised, especially not after a fight and you're bleeding. Your HGH levels will be at the max, output. And so after they said my HGH level was elevated, I redid my blood test. I asked him to, give me retest that blood. And, I wanted to see what about, my opponent's blood, where's that at? And somehow, magically it got destroyed. So I was, confused by that. And luckily, Dr. Caitlin got on social media and says, "Hey, you're messing with my 10-year research. Kung Lee's actually, his levels are normal," because he didn't try to protect me because like we knew each other. He was protecting his 10-year research. So from the 10-year research, if you're going to test for someone with elevated HGH levels, you got to test them fasted, and you have to test them when they just woke up from, their resting heart rate's got to be at a rest. And, when they did that, I was 15 minutes right after I fought, and I was, as you saw my face, I was kind of banged up, but, so I wanted to see my opponent's blood work too, but it was destroyed.
And on top of that, the lab that they use to do the testing, weren't they like not accredited or not really set up to do that type of testing?
Yes. They basically use not a, what were those labs called? The official lab that is, for performance enhancing drug testing. It was just a regular lab that they use for, like if you own a big company and you had to get your employees checked out, that's what they used.
So Kung, besides launching Flight or Fight soon, what other media projects are you currently working on? I understand that you are now the Shadowcast Chief Content Officer. What does that involve?
Yeah, that he's got to get his software to kind of catch up to the speed of his what he wants to achieve before I can start developing like storylines for him. So there, and then I'm just writing my own script, and then getting my own projects funded through investors. That's what I got going on right now, and I'm working with the Bay Area Tactical whenever because with this COVID, it's hard to get group classes going. So you either do small classes, which I feel like it's a little bit difficult because because, it's with the small class, you can't, pay like, all your instructors. So everyone's rotating, so.
Well, Kung, I know we took up too much of your time, but thank you so much for joining us today and just for being an all-around inspiration.
Thank you for having me. And, I appreciate it. And maybe the next time I get on, we can chat about my wife's case, because there's a lot of stuff that you can answer for me. And I think that would be a big one, because, this is the corruption side of fight or flight.
Man, we really got a lot of survival tips from Kung that I thought will help all of us to be better prepared for almost anything. You don't have to be an MMA beast or tactical weapons expert to walk away from dangerous situations unscathed. But if you are, of course, that helps.
Yeah, it really does. Kung's Flight or Fight show is, I think, really going to be a great public service. And I found it interesting that how it's not all about physical actions. Sometimes it's just how you present yourself, or how you use your voice, or even just having a calm and prepared mindset. And one of the tips that Kung gives in his sizzle reel has to do with pepper spray. And I think, we typically think of pepper spray as something that you use when you're in close quarters with somebody, if you're being attacked, but it can prevent an attack as well. So like Kung said in the sizzle reel, let's say, God forbid, you're involved in a home invasion, you're upstairs in the bedroom, you hear them downstairs. Well, go out your bedroom door, flood the zone with pepper spray, which will either block them from getting to you, slow them down, or when they do get to you, they're going to have red eyes. And again, it just buys you enough time to call 911, to lock yourself in somewhere, to get a weapon, whatever. But it's just about getting that couple of seconds or whatever can make a difference.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really smart, easy to apply tip. I was really also excited, Mehul, to listen to Kung take us behind the scenes of his MMA and film career.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very cool anecdote about him getting acting tips from David Carradine on set.
For sure.
I also thought he gave us a TMZ scoop there about here's a few tips and a flask.
Well, I mean, that proves that Kung takes care of his body, turn it down the flask, as if we didn't know that.
You know what? He did decline, just, so you could hear it inside, his interview here. You heard him decline it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was just gracious of Kung to spend so much time with us today. And I think it was cool that we got to go deep on a number of topics. So, we will definitely take Kung up on his offer for a follow-up episode.
Yeah, absolutely. You can catch the sizzle reel for Flight or Fight at Kung's YouTube page, and we've also posted a link with the description of this episode. Also check out Kung's IG accounts at KungLee185 and at Flight or Fight Official TV. For all things Kung Lee, check out his official website at KungLeeOfficial.com. We really hope our listeners are staying safe and healthy, and we truly appreciate all the downloads, follows, and feedback. Please check out all of our episodes at crimeredefined.com, and feel free to hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook.
Thank you for listening to the Crime Redefined podcast. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Crime Redefined. Please send us your comments and questions and join us for the next episode.